Hey, everybody. It is Lisa with It's Not That Hard to Homeschool. We believe that you can confidently, competently, and even contentedly homeschool your kids. And we're here every week to equip you with the tools you need to educate your kids well and launch them into what we have found to be a disrupted world. Today, I am here with a special guest, my friend, Melissa Grande. She teaches science and she's the STEM department chair at True North Academy. So glad you're here to join us, Melissa.
Thanks.
Um,
Happy to be here.
yeah, you brought to my attention an issue with the student loans. So we are going to talk about that today.
Mm.
Beginning July 1st, the federal government stopped writing an unlimited check for graduate school. That might not seem like anything of importance for all of us who are getting our kids ready for middle school and high school, but stay tuned because there's a lot coming down the pike you need to be aware of. This could actually force colleges to lower prices, which would not be the worst thing ever, but it can also leave families facing six-figure funding gaps. And Melissa's here to talk about her discoveries with this. We're going to talk about what changed with this federal government limit on student loans, who it affects, and what every parent should know before their child chooses a professional career. So, Melissa, I'm glad you're here and thank you for bringing this to my attention. I talk about colleges all the time, what's going on vocationally and academically, but you're bringing a totally different perspective, and that is like, what's happening with the money and how can parents access the money they need for their kids to get through a degree. So tell us why this became important to you. And I think it's going to be helpful to hear your story a little bit because it's relatable.
It is. I had no clue that this was even a thing that was happening. But I have a rising senior and I also have a rising 10th grader, both of whom are interested in professional STEM degrees, which would require more than a bachelor degree. And so, as we are starting to consider colleges and look at scholarships, and are scholarships even worth applying for anymore because they're so competitive? That's like, we could have a whole podcast on just that. And as we're starting to make these plans and think about, some realistic ways that we can get college done and help my children achieve their dreams, I was looking more into the big beautiful bill because the student loans are changing.
Yeah.
And we discovered a couple things that could potentially impact the schools we're looking at, maybe change the trajectory slightly of what type of career path my kids are considering going into, and things like that. I mean, right off the top of the bat, it sounds like a fantastic idea, right? We do want colleges to lower their costs. I think that
Mhm.
everyone can agree that colleges
Yeah.
are,
Out of control.
inflated costs, out of control.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the degrees are not getting the return on their money. And one of the goals of this program is to not only force colleges to kind of lower costs, but also to have them be held accountable for student
Yeah.
outcomes. So if their students are not, making a certain level of money or not achieving, um, the promised outcome of their degree, then they can lose some of their federal funding.
Hmm.
So it kind of holds them accountable too. And I think everyone knows someone who at some point, maybe attended some sort of, post high school education and was not satisfied with the results of, their outcome. There's stories of schools closing because they're losing accreditation or weren't accredited to begin with and their students thought they were. And we
Hmm.
can just go down that whole rabbit trail of that as well. But I think that it is a good way to hold them accountable.
Hmm.
But it does pose some challenges for
Right.
families whose students are looking into these,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
degrees
So
as well.
I want to talk about what changed legally so parents are really aware of
Yes,
this.
yes.
And I'm going to just read what happened, okay?
Yep.
Because I think it's important to really understand this. Congress eliminated new Grad Plus loans for
Hmm.
graduate and professional students beginning July 1st, 2026. That just took place, right? And they placed new limits on how much students can borrow through federal loans. So that doesn't automatically lower tuition. It just means that families have to find other ways to pay if a degree costs more than federal limits. Now,
Yes.
one of the things you touched on already was the competition towards scholarship funds. And I also want to point out something else that's happened since 2020. A lot of scholarships were defunded because
Hmm.
in 2020, people panicked and stopped giving as much. And some of those scholarships were never brought back. So
Hmm.
even though we've hit an enrollment cliff and there's fewer students going to colleges, the money is more competitive for the kids going, which is kind
Yes.
of, it doesn't make sense in a way, but it's really what's happening. And now with the federal loans or the federal government saying there's caps on loans, this is where parents need to be very strategic with and for their kids. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things you brought to my attention, Melissa. If anything, you are a mom with a strategy and a plan, like a good
Always.
scientist.
Yes, always.
You are the epitome of that. And so you're sitting here looking at your kids and what you've spent their academic life working towards these dreams of
Totally.
your kids and
Yeah.
going, okay, well, now where's the money coming from? Are we going to have
Yeah.
enough money to finish this plan out? Is it even realistic at this point?
Yes. Well, I think like the biggest thing, there's lots of rules for all the different degrees, but the
Yeah.
biggest like take home, if you remember nothing else, is that there's a new lifetime limit
Yeah.
of 257K. So
Hmm.
that is for everything, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, everything. So as a student, your student can only take out 257K. Now, probably, you know, like me, you're thinking, oh my gosh, that should be
That's so
plenty
much
of
money.
money. That is so much money. My kid will never use
Yeah.
all of that money.
Right.
I will tell you, if you have a student that's going into a professional degree, so we're talking pre med or nursing, right? Law,
Well,
pre
let
law.
me, what is a professional degree? It means you need a license, which most of
Yes,
those professional degrees require the degree to
right.
apply for the license. So you can't get the license without the degree.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So law, medicine, certain types of engineers, in particular aerospace and aviation engineers,
Yeah. Mental
piloting,
health.
commercial piloting is
Yeah.
huge right now. Everyone wants to be a pilot. Okay. So same sort of a thing. You are going to blow through that 257 probably before, you know,
Let,
really
let,
early.
well,
You
let's
it
break
might
it
not even
down.
cover your bachelor's.
Let's break it down. So the my private Christian college that I went to, when I went to there, it was less than 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
I got out debt free because I got scholarships. I did work study, my parents contributed, etc. That college cost 38,000 without room and board. So we're talking over 50,000 a year with room and board, which most freshmen are required to live on campus.
Yes.
So if you don't have scholarships and everything, it's going to be 200,000 just for your undergrad, a little bit over that. And that's
Yes.
average. Let me tell you, this is not an anomaly kind of school situation I'm
No.
talking about. This is normal. What if you get scholarships? Okay, great. My son got the highest level of scholarships they awarded, still left him with $32,000 a year. That's 36912. If you graduate in 4 years, you're over 120. If you take 6 years, you're at like 160 to 180 for your undergraduate degree. Okay.
Yes.
Now you go get a master's degree, which is usually 50 to 70,000 a year. You're way over that. If you want to go get a PhD or you need an extended graduate program beyond a master's, you don't have the money from a federal loan situation.
Right. I mean, I am already hearing stories of students who are concerned about, you know, finishing degrees. Now,
Yeah.
I believe that there's certain grandfather clauses and things like that for a certain amount of time. So students that are
Yeah.
already like in it, um, many of them are going to be grandfathered in and they don't have the same concerns. But yeah, I mean, it's, and, you know, speaking of the scholarship things, let's just add grade inflation into that
Yeah.
conversation, because I've literally heard people saying to me, you should not worry about your kids with scholarships. One of
Oh,
them in
yeah.
particular, oh, their resume is stellar. They have a 4.0, no problem.
Hmm.
I have to tell you, every kid applying for those scholarships is stellar. Every single kid.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, and
And
either they,
we're not talking the competition from international students. I mean,
yes,
India has more honor students than America has students.
right.
So even if a small percentage of them come over, they're probably going to get aid because schools are filling out their demographic, right? So
Yes.
you have international competition as well.
Correct, correct. So there's a lot of competition for scholarships,
Hmm.
for sure. So, yeah, grad school. Once you get in, if it's a non-licensed degree, your cap is 25 a year or 100K over your lifetime for the graduate. So let's say you do really great at getting your bachelor's for a great cost. You've gotten scholarships. You did some dual
Yeah.
enrollment or dual degree programs. You still in grad school could only take up to 100K over your lifetime, as a
Wow.
non-professional.
Okay.
Licensed is 50K annually.
Wow. So I
So
just want to share some costs of medicine, law, and nursing, as well as pilot school. Okay.
yes.
Medical school commonly costs medical school 300 to $400,000.
Yes.
Law school often exceeds 200,000. Now, when I say medical school and law school, I'm talking about the graduate program. So you already have your undergraduate degree. And
Right.
now for medical school, you need to count on 3 to 400,000. For law school, you have your undergraduate. For your JD of 2 years, maybe three, you should count on 200,000 to complete that. Advanced nursing programs can range from 60 to over 200,000. Becoming a pilot can cost easily 100 to 150 when flight training is included. If you try to do flight training on your own, expect some serious cash because it's not cheap to get your pilot's license.
That's actually really, really great. We looked at one
Reasonable.
school
Yeah.
that was under 500K for 4 years.
Wow.
But
Okay.
that included flight costs. That was your flight costs
Okay.
too.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
it's expensive. It's
Yes.
expensive to become a professional.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is $100,000 to $500,000 of debt really mean? Because a lot of the parents, I think, listening to this are going to go, well, then we're just not going to go into a professional degree seeking kind of program because if we have to expect to take $300,000 to $400,000 out in debt, we're not going to do it. So I just reality check. If you take $100,000 in student loans, it's about $1,200 monthly for 10 years. Now, if you consolidate and everything else, it could change things. If you have $300,000 in debt, plan on $3,600 a month and $500,000 in debt. We're talking $500,000 in debt. That's going to be about $6,000 per month. And those
Yes.
payments are going to affect where your kid lives, if they can buy a home, start a family, even what career they choose. And listen, if you have that kind of debt when you graduate, the loan servicing company isn't going, well, I know you're just starting out and you're not making as much as a new pilot or a new nurse or whatever. So we're going to start low and incrementally. Oh no, they sock you with the amount of the debt. And if you take a forbearance, you're still earning principal on the debt or still earning interest on the principal of the loan. So that debt can be more after a forbearance than it was before. So there's a lot of ways the loan companies continue to make money off of you, even if you're paying and servicing the debt. So you want to really be careful about what that debt means long term.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And not all hope is lost. Like, I mean, this
Yeah.
sounds really like upsetting and challenging, but and maybe, but there are ways that you can help drive down these costs. Like I said earlier, we were talking about doing dual degree programs, which True North has. We also talk about dual enrollment programs, which lots of programs offer. There's also a lot of great even certificate programs that you can get out there, some of which are free if you do them
Yeah.
online. And all of those things help give you a little boost. Some of them your college will accept towards credits or as experience. A lot of
Hmm.
colleges are even giving credits based on your life experience. So if your
Hmm.
student maybe did, EMT training or something like that,
Yeah.
you might lobby to have those things considered for some life experience credits or things like that too. So there's definitely ways to drive the cost of college down and make yourself able to stand out for scholarships. So I don't want to
Mhm.
throw the baby out with the bathwater. If
Yeah.
your kid has dreams of being a doctor and, a surgeon since they were 5 years old, this is not me saying, hey, don't try to achieve your dreams. But I do think it is, and I wish I had seen this coming down the pike a lot earlier. Maybe earlier in my high school student's career, I would have elected to do some more experiential things or things like that would have made things a little bit more competitive. Stuff changes so fast.
Yeah, it
You can
has.
hardly see it coming and you can just do what you
Right.
do at the time. But
Well,
yeah,
and I do think like if you really want to go into med school or to become, really somebody who can prescribe medicine in the medical field, you can do a nurse practitioner, you can do a physician's assistant. It takes
yeah,
less time in school. You get out earlier. And if you go work at a hospital and you start out as an orderly or an LPN or whatever, a lot of times the hospital will pay for
yes, that's
school
another
or
thing.
towards school.
Yep.
So you really want to think about that. And I would say too, if you're in a state that allows your student to earn an associate's degree, like Ohio, Florida, there's several of them, Minnesota, try to get into that program and you can earn your
Yeah,
associate's degree before you graduate. If you go to the state school, they're going to accept that undergrad associate's degree towards your bachelor's.
right.
You've just knocked out some serious money obligations on your side and helped your kids get a couple years ahead. So if you're going to do dual degree credits, check with the school that you're going to transfer to and get
Yes,
in writing that they're going to accept those credits. Try to
yes.
focus on gen eds if you can possibly do that. There's ways to circumvent the system a little bit. Education is in a time of disruption, and I think
Hmm.
this federal ruling is just saying we are in a time of disruption. We've got to
Yeah,
really put some limits on what colleges are doing because they're not serving the kids very well. The debt is really difficult for our kids to manage, and we have over $1 trillion in student loan debt. Um,
yes.
the problem with student loan debt too is you cannot bankrupt it. So once you take it
Mhm.
out, you pay it off or you die with it. And if you don't pay it off, because there's a lot of student loan debt in default right now, they can literally garnish your wages. So student loan debt is something to really carefully consider with your kids. It might be part of your overall strategy. And if so, just be aware of how to manage it and how you're going to use it well.
Yeah, and in terms of scholarships, like I've also been hearing a lot about getting involved locally with local organizations.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
less competitive, veterans associations, medical clubs, an
The electric
astronomy
company.
club.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anywhere that has an interest for your kid, if there's a club or a group available, that's great. Pilots, EAA, the EAA groups, anything like that is very helpful because they're more apt to give scholarships out to people they know and that are
Hmm.
interacting with them versus someone that applies for that same scholarship,
For sure.
halfway across the country. They want to give it to the kid that shows up every week and does
Right.
volunteer work,
Right.
with them. So that is a major thing that like we're looking at. My family is doing that, and I would definitely recommend that for everyone is to focus more on those local opportunities versus the
Hmm.
national or international
Right.
pool of opportunities too. So
I think you
yeah,
brought up something very important. You said our family. I mean, you're making this a
yeah,
family affair. Parents,
yeah.
if you think your kids are going to be able to pay off a year of college by working at Arby's or McDonald's, you really need to look at what colleges cost right now because it's going to take a strategy. You're going to have to really help your kids think past, you know, what we would have assumed would have been a normal college cost because it's not normal anymore. It's really inflated,
Yeah,
honestly.
living at home helps too. If you
Yeah.
can start out okay, say you want to be a surgeon, there is no shame in going to local
Yeah.
community college to start and getting your gen eds done, and getting your, initial important classes that you need, even if you pass the gen eds done at community colleges or state
Hmm.
schools. You do not have to go to Harvard or Yale or, any of those biggies right off the bat as a freshman living at home and
Hmm.
working while going to school.
Yeah.
All good things. And you
Yeah.
know.
The other thing too, don't overlook the military because
Yes,
there's the GI
true.
Bill, and if you are already, if you have an undergrad, you can go in as an officer. I mean, my husband did. He already had his PhD, but he did a payback program with the military where he got his post graduate clinical hours in exchange for serving in the military. And honestly, it was a great deal for us and for them.
Yes.
So don't overlook military opportunities. And if you're not sure what they are for the profession your kid wants to go into, call a recruiter. Just don't let your kid
Yeah.
go in there alone because they might sign something that they're
Well,
not
their
sure.
Instagram pages are great ways to find out information
Yes.
too. Like, I don't know who's doing the marketing for the Navy, but their
Oh man, it's on
Instagram
point.
is fantastic
I
right now.
know it,
Yes.
right? It is.
It is,
Yes.
it's amazing. And they put graphics up with career opportunities that
Yes.
show like what that job does and everything like that. And I think it makes it really clear to students like, oh, hey, that's an interest level for me, and I could, go in the Navy and learn that same skill
Right.
and come out ready to go, and then I'll have my GI Bill too. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, good job, Navy. Whoever's doing your
Yeah.
marketing.
I know it, right?
Yeah,
Yes. So I just want to just share a little, like, be aware, okay? Private loans generally don't offer the same repayment protections, forgiveness
right.
programs, or flexible payment options as federal loans. And they might require a parent to co-sign. So if the graduate can't make the payments, guess what? Parents, you're liable and
Yeah.
responsible for that debt. So be careful about what kind of loans your kids are signing on and that you're co-signing on. I have a couple questions you might want to ask as a parent as you're looking at professional programs. And Melissa, feel free to jump in because I know you're a question asker. But the first thing to ask is what's the total cost of this program, not just tuition?
Right.
Include housing, books, which have gone up like 400% in the last several years, fees, equipment, and living expenses, because those often add tens of thousands of dollars to the tuition fee. Um, Ask them upfront. How much debt will my child likely graduate with? Ask the average debt of recent graduates in that specific program, not the national average. Ask for the debt of their particular program. And then ask if your kids can graduate, especially with their undergrad, in 4 years, not six, because on average, most kids are graduating in 6 years. Every year
Mhm.
you're in undergrad, it adds tens of thousands of dollars potentially to the loan debt. So strategize how your kids can get out of that undergraduate in 4 years. Now, sometimes the program is situated so that you have to do classes in cycles, and they honestly, the longer your kids in an undergraduate program, the more they owe. So sometimes that cycle gets skewed. So your kids are there longer. So check with the admissions counselor and make sure that they can actually get out of the program in a timely manner. Help your kids strategize to do that. When they change majors, like that usually adds more time. Also, ask about the fiscal viability of the program your kids are going into in the school. Ask that pointed question. I've said this over and over, 25% of colleges are going to close in the next 10 years. Wall Street Journal is saying one a week is closing in the United States.
Yeah.
That's a crisis. Ask the school, are you going to be around in 5 years? Because if your kid is in the middle of their program and the school closes, guess what? You have student loan debt
Yes.
probably without a degree. And if you transfer, even though they have to make provision for the students in the program, but almost always inevitably they'll have to take more classes,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah.
a mess when that happens. What percentage of the students graduate from the program? What percentage of the students pass licensing exams and find jobs? And Melissa,
Yeah.
you alluded to this, but listen, if you have a program that says we have a nursing program, and you dig a little bit and find that only 10% of their nursing graduates pass the licensing exams, maybe go look for a different nursing
Yeah.
program. So if your student is going into a licensing program, find the stats from the school. Every school has to keep a student profile, and that student profile tells you what is the test scores of the kids coming in, how many pass the exams going out, how many graduate. It tells you all the details.
Yeah. And sidebar about nursing, something that I found out too, is there's a difference between direct admit to a nursing program and then delayed admission to a nursing program. So there are some universities, I'm thinking of one in particular, not going to say
Mm-hmm.
names, where several people I know went down to do their nursing program. And when they're freshmen, They're a like pre-nursing student,
Yeah.
and then they have to apply to the program in their sophomore year. And there's such a demand for nursing programs right now that these students did not get in. So you
Wow.
start out, thinking, well, of course I'm going to get into the nursing program. That's what I'm going. That's the only reason why I'm going
Yeah.
to the school, right? So I do think that even with nursing, it's very important that if you're not going to go for a direct admit program, which is extremely competitive, again, look for some of those local ways that you can make it happen. A
Yeah.
lot of local and state schools have RN to BSN programs, or you
Right.
can start at a nursing school to get your RM and then
Right.
transfer from another school to do RN to BSN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great information.
Yeah.
I would also add to that, what do graduates actually earn? So you
Yeah.
want to look at median starting salaries, not the highest earners, because your kids are going to graduate and they're going to start out as a young professional. They're not going to make the top, like pilots can make 350 to 400,000.
Yeah.
Even upwards more if they're doing private kind of stuff, they can make even more than that. But are they going to start out at that? They're going to start out
No.
at probably like 90 to 100,000, which is not,
Yeah.
it's not slacking. But if you have $3,000 to $4,000 a month in loan repayment, that's going to really cramp their style. So you want to really look at what is the median amount that your kids are going to make in that profession, right?
Right.
And then how much financial aid is guaranteed versus borrowed. So scholarships reduce costs permanently and loans can simply delay the bill. So you want to get that good ratio of what do I need to borrow? What are they going to provide? Is this year after year? Is just for the first year? What are they offering? And what does that mean for your overall debt load? Um, and Melissa, you've touched on this over and over. Is there a more affordable path to the same career? Community college, dual enrollment, transfer agreements, competency-based programs can really dramatically reduce total cost. And honestly, parents, again, helping your kids create a strategy. Like, listen, Gen Z is really concerned with money, even though they're the wealthiest generation, maybe throughout all time. Really, seriously, they have so much money at their disposal, but they're so worried about money because they're not really sure how to make it or if it's going to continue. So have these difficult conversations with your kids. Like, here's what it costs. Here's debt structure. Here's repayment. Here's what this lifestyle could look like with this debt structure. Have those down in the weed conversations with your kids so that they really understand what that means.
Yeah, and that just speaks to the importance of taking a personal finance course in high
Well,
school.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the
Yeah,
one we offer at True North is fantastic. I mean, honestly, it's really good. It's like the game of life coupled with Dave Ramsey, so it's really fun. Um, so I think this is an important thing to think about. What if your kids change their mind after year one or after they've invested 4 or 5 years and they've got all this debt out? What happens to them financially? And I think having those conversations with your kids before they get into debt, when my husband and I, when he was in graduate school, we were, oof, we're kind of like low debt, no debt kind of people. We pay everything with cash kind of stuff. And we were taking out loans for his program. And we were really concerned about the amount of loans we were taking out. And we went and sat down with the financial aid officer and said, this is really stressing us out. We had a baby at that point, and we were like, this is like a lot of money. We both had graduated with our undergraduate debt free, and we both been working for a long time at that point, et cetera, et cetera. And she just said, you know what? You're going to make so much money. $1,000 a month in student loan debt is going to be like, you're not even going to feel it. Well, guess what? The industry changed while my husband was in graduate school. HIPAA laws became a thing. Like literally, the entire industry changed. Um, um, what are they called? Insurance reimbursement changed. It really, we took hits for a long time because of that. But we knew a lot of people in the program because at that point we were really considering, do we want to keep this program going or do you just
yeah,
want to cut our losses, pay off the debt and move on to something else? But I think having those conversations with your kids ahead of time, because my husband's always made really good money and $1,000 like, have we ever noticed it? Well, heck yeah, $1,000, especially when
yeah.
you have one parent raising a large family, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's good to have those kind of conversations with your kids. What if you get into this and you discover, Not for me. We knew a lot of people in grad school who dropped out after year one, year two, year three, year four, or they finished the graduate degree and never got licensed. So they have $60,000 in debt, no license. And so
Yeah,
I, one person in particular went back to teaching, and at that point, this is how long ago it was, making like $45,000 a year with an $800 a month payment. Yikes. I mean, so having a plan B for your kids is not the worst thing ever. And I mean, we've talked about this a lot, Melissa. This is why a lot of our classes are very project based. Have your kids do some hands-on activity in that field. Your kids are in
yeah,
caps, they're around pilots. I mean, they do, like you've
yeah.
exposed your kids to the world of what they're talking about, right?
Yeah, I think it's really important that your kid knows what they want to do. And, if they're not sure, maybe do a gap year program.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I am a big proponent of not rushing into, especially a 4 year college. Like,
Yeah.
definitely, I think if your kid is unsure and they're like, oh, maybe I'll go to be an accountant. Oh, maybe I'll go do this. This kind of sounds fun. And then they get into it and they don't like it. Um, that could be really, really scary financially. And
Yeah.
um, I know homeschoolers love to graduate their kids early. I'm not saying there's not circumstances where that's a good thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's necessary. But also maybe give them a super senior year. There's
Yeah.
no reason why you can't take an extra year, especially if they're on the younger side of things. Definitely that extra year helps with maturity. It helps them figure out their likes and dislikes.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of freedom having kids, and I'm sure you realize this too. I think a big change comes when they like get their driver's license and they have some independence.
Yeah.
Like, don't commit to anything until they're really out in the world doing things alone, experiencing things, and are able to kind of be more independent minded, where they can start
Mhm.
to really discover things that they love,
Yeah.
and don't love,
Right.
versus just my kid's going to a 4 year school and we're going to jump into that right away. I think
Hmm.
that time is helpful. Like,
I
what's the rush,
absolutely.
really?
Yeah. No,
you know?
100%. Yeah. And once they get into a job or a career field that feels like, okay, we've invested all this money, but now we don't really want to complete it. What's the pivot there for them? Do they feel like they
Yes.
have to do it forever and they're going to be miserable?
Right.
I
Yes.
mean, or is there any way to like, massage it and turn it into something that's really more palatable for your kids? And,
Right.
work is work. So do you have to love every minute of it? No. But do you want your
Yes.
kids to be miserable the rest of their life? Also, no. Um,
Yes.
so, and I think that's why a good career exploration class is really good too. Just
Yeah.
who are you? What are your strengths and skills and natural abilities? What are things that are not really a good fit for you? My mother-in-law told me this years and years ago. She was a teacher for a very long time. And towards the end of her career, she's like, I'm really an introvert and teaching probably isn't the best profession for me because I don't like standing up in front of people. That's what I
Yeah.
did. And I really did enjoy going to work every day. So I think just having a sense of who you are and what are your strengths and skills and what skills do you want to continue to build on, is
Yeah.
helpful for our kids to understand and how that fits in with a job.
Yeah, my kids just did the career exploration, the little free books that were on the True North website a
Yeah,
couple
they're
weeks
so good.
ago.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love it.
and I mean, they're good just for kind of like, a broad idea of like, I have to really think about, what am I good at? What do
Yeah.
I actually enjoy doing? Like, yes, we have our own family culture, and I've always done X, Y, and Z, but like, what are some areas that maybe I enjoy that I haven't thought about in a while,
Yeah.
or those kind of, sleeper skills that maybe
Yes.
your child has but doesn't really utilize. And how can we use all those things together, maybe in a
Yeah.
future career path? So I love those freebies. Those
Yeah.
were
There's
great.
some.
We never used them before, and they were great. So
I'm so glad to hear that. We're
yeah,
always putting out real, honestly, they are high quality freebies. We put a lot of time and effort into it. They're
yeah.
very informative, and they're free to use. So yeah, go grab them at the True North website, truenorthhomeschool.academy. So Melissa, can you just recap for us really quickly, what's going on with the student loans? as
Yeah.
far as caps?
Okay, so again, the caps again, as a kind of final thought on that, you will have students will have a lifetime limit of 257K. That's for all degrees in total. So whatever degrees your student is taking, that's their limit.
And that's
Um,
their entire life. Like they can't
yes.
cap it out and then when they're 60, go back and go, I want to take out more student loans.
Correct. Maybe in the future something will change with regards
Yeah.
to that. Hopefully so, but for now that's the case. Yes.
Hmm.
So if you are going to graduate school as a non-professional or non-licensed degree,
Yeah.
like I don't know, Master of the Arts in
Well,
Museum Studies
education
or something,
probably. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
your limit is 25, 205, 20,500 per year, or 100K over your lifetime.
Okay.
Professional or licensure degrees is 50K annually
Okay.
for that. So,
Up to 250, right?
yes.
Okay.
And then parents can only take out 20K per year per student or 60K per lifetime per student. So if you're banking on Parent Plus loans for each student that you're taking out loans for, you can only take up to 60K per lifetime for that
Hmm.
each student. So
Yeah.
there are new caps on that too. So
Wow.
that is the caps in a nutshell, but it's definitely something to think about. Whereas
Hmm.
before it was like the Wild West, you could take out as much as your degree cost; it didn't matter. And now there's some reins on that. So definitely something to consider as you're starting your college planning.
Yeah. And really working backwards is always a great plan, in my opinion.
Yeah,
If you know your kid wants to go to med school and become an MD and they want a specific um what am I uh specialty, what does that look like over the years? Like you've got your
yeah,
undergrad, you've got med school, you've got your residency, you've got internships. You have a long path ahead of you. We're talking 8 to 12 years. So backward
yeah,
engineer, what does that look like financially? Because you know it's going to cost more than $250,000 to get through that. And plus, your kids have to live too. So
yeah,
help your kids really think it through. What does this mean? This is the amount of money available to us through federal loans. How can we strategically attack this problem? It's just a problem to be solved. I mean, most things are really figure outable. And if
right.
your kid really wants to go the route of professional licensure, they probably have the academic and an intellectual acumen to really figure it out. But it's going to
Yeah,
take some strategy work.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
senior year is overwhelming for teenagers
Yeah.
anyway, so that probably adds to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely figure outable, and it's something that as parents you would probably have to help your students navigate,
Yeah.
so it's not quite so overwhelming. And
I just thought of another idea. This is a crazy idea, but a friend of mine did it. And again, this is years ago. I'm this old, but he wanted to go to med school in the United States and he didn't get in. So he went to South America, did med school in South America, came back to America, got licensed in America because he had the degree. He just took
yeah,
the licensing exam. So you can travel and go to school internationally as well as a way to cut some of those costs. Argentina, Germany, there's other countries that have free college. Now you need to know another language. I mean,
yeah,
there's some other things you got to think about, but there's some really great opportunities for our kids in the world right now.
yeah,
Education really isn't a time of great disruption, but it's kind of a fun challenge in some ways. And maybe I'm saying that because my kids are through college, and I'm like, whoo! Honestly, it's a lot to think through. You know, but it's doable. And if you're homeschooling, you're a creative person and you have what it takes to really help your kids navigate this new challenge. So, Melissa, I really appreciate your bringing this to my attention.
oh yeah, no worries.
I kind of heard whisperings about it, but when you were talking about this, I'm like, wait, what? So,
Yeah,
I appreciate your doing this podcast with me. If you guys have questions or comments about it, we'd love to hear from you. And listen, we really do believe you can confidently, competently, and even contentedly homeschool your kids and help them navigate this time of educational disruption. Homeschooling is not that hard. We know you can do it. We'll talk to you next time on the podcast. Thanks for listening in, everybody.
thank you.